Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching this. Welcome to the second episode of Black and White. And so I want to start off by recapping my first episode. It was my very first episode, very first time doing something like this. I talked about police violence, both the police giving out and receiving. I also talked about Judge Holden, which, let me just say, I was so excited with the start of this project that I mispronounced his name completely. It's Judge Holden, not Hayden. So I apologize. I did have all the links and all that correct, but I did get that little piece out of there. And so I'll work to be better. I also talked about the borders issues going on currently in the country with immigration. Now, with today's episode, I'm going to be discussing a few topics. The first and foremost, I'll be discussing the remake of The Little Mermaid. I'll be talking about the immigration. I'll be talking about this Procter & Gamble ad. Shootings that are taking place in St. Louis within the last 24 hours. And last but not least, I'll be talking about Kurt Warner. Now, again, I must first say thank you to all of those that have watched and already subscribed to this show and decided to kind of see just what direction am I taking this in. I already have 8 within my first week, which I'm excited about, and some may not be, but I'm very excited that I have other people that are like-minded and want to do something that can be impactful. Now, obviously, we need to get the numbers up to really build up some self-esteem and energy to get something done. So I've got a goal by July 31st that we're going to be at 50 subscribers. And so then we can really sit down and start having some discussions about how we can start impacting our community and making it a much better place to be, and changing some of the dynamics to make it safer for our children, and for us. I mean, let's not forget about us. I love my children, but I want to be safe too. And so with that, I want to kick off this episode by talking about a couple of definitions. Okay, and so to start off, the first one I'm going to be discussing is racism. And it is defined as prejudice or discrimination or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. Or another way would be the belief that all members of each race possess characteristics or abilities specific to that race, especially so as to distinguish it as inferior or superior to another race or races. Okay? The other definition I would like to give you is ignorance. And so that's a lacking of knowledge or awareness in general, uneducated or unsophisticated. Okay? And so another way of going about it is a lack of knowledge, information, or an awareness about a particular thing. And that second piece is really the most important, and obviously being rude or discourteous. And so getting into this first topic of immigration, I talked about it the first episode. I'm going to talk about it this episode because it's still continually happening. And so we're paying, as taxpayers, roughly $775 a day per person. And so when you look at this, I don't see $775. Whether that be in the little aluminum paper or those little thin cots, that's not $775 worth, okay? And I don't want to be misunderstood in what I'm about to say, but I would much rather that if we're not going to do the thing that's best for these people, because this is absolutely unacceptable, then I want to know where that money's going. Because if they're not spending $775 per person, we can do some quick math and see that adds up very quickly. Where is that money going? Because it's not going to them. So who's profiting off of this? I would love to have some answers about where this money is going. And this goes beyond children because it's families, ultimately. That's unacceptable. It's not just about the children, it's about adults. There's no way that we should be condoning this. And so there's those that are like, oh, go back to where you came from. You don't belong here. Yeah, okay, so if you're not Native American, you weren't really born here. Okay, your families or ancestors migrated here to make a better life for you as well as them and their family generation for years to come. So, that stated, everybody, including myself, immigrated here from ancestors previous. They wanted a better chance. And so that is the past. And in the past, you didn't have something like this. You were just you went to a city and you started building and you started from scratch and you made, a better way for yourself. And so, this does not represent how it was done when we came into the country, with my ancestors, your ancestors. And so that's something that we really need to be cognizant of and aware of, because this is supposed to be a country where everybody is pretty much welcomed, in the land of the free. Does that look free to you? And that's just my take on it. And we're paying all these tax dollars for these facilities to be built, and clearly they're not being used the money's not being used for what we're seeing here. And so, again, we know that the system works in the sense of coming to this country, you do get a fresh start. You can make something of yourself. If you doubt what I'm telling you right now, simply go look in the mirror. You have plenty of ancestry websites where you can go see where your family originated from. You came to this country based on your ancestors wanting to make a better standing and a better opportunity. That's what this country was originally called, was the land of opportunity. And so they seized that and they came here. And so if you are obviously the result of that opportunity and being successful, how do you feel so comfortable denying another family of that same opportunity? I'm just curious, because it makes no sense to me. I don't understand how that is the humane thing to do. So we were able to migrate and move in, but you can't. That's the bully mentality. If you're asking me, the playground, you can't get on this swing set. Okay, this is my swing set. You didn't pay for it. You don't own it. This is wrong. And I'll continue to say that this is wrong because it is not the humane thing to do. If they're in subpar conditions and they want to better themselves and come to the country that is known as the land of opportunity, they should be able to have that. That is just me being humane. This, again, is not a political show. This is just me speaking to what I know to be right, in my humble opinion. And so I think the best thing that we can continue to do is evolve. And if you like, let me give you that definition as well. And so that's any process or formation of growth or development, a process of gradual, peaceful, progressive change or development, as in social or economic structure or institutions. Allow me to give you some examples. We used to ride horses. That was our means of transportation. Now we drive automobiles that can provide heat and cool climates on demand, safety features on demand. That product has evolved. Metal, in terms of just being used as equipment, now can build houses, building structures. It can, build more structures to build even bigger machines. It can be used to convert into energy. We evolved. The technology, wireless, coming from the ancient cell phone or the ring phone that you used to have. Again, technology evolving. That's something that we can do, but we have to be better. And actually, I'm going to talk to you guys about this upcoming commercial. Whoops. And before I do, I wanted to point out this other photo. 88 adult males are held in the cell with a maximum capacity of 41. There's a toilet in there somewhere. I mean, a violation of just basic human decency. You can't even use the bathroom in peace. They're literally on top of one another. If anybody that thinks that this is okay, I encourage you to go visit and stay in one of these facilities for 3 days, just 3, and let's see how you like it. But going back to the point of, there's a commercial that I have for you that I want you guys to watch, and we're going to talk about it right after we come back. And then we're going to get brutally honest. Welcome back to the episode of Black and White. So with the commercial, I applaud Procter and Gamble for creating that content, because it's so very, unfortunately, true. People are judged by the color of their skin, not knowing the person that they truly are. And all those things play factors. And what's amazing to me is that we are born creators, okay? And by that I mean, if we take eggs, you can sit here and make cake, brownies, omelets, pancakes. If you take metal, you can turn it into transportation, a home, a tool. You have the ability to convert it into a multitude of different things. We create. And we continuously evolve in areas, but then we stay constant in this one area of racism, and it doesn't make sense. Those are not things that you're born with. Ignorance is a lack of knowledge, and then racism is a subsidy of that, in my opinion, because it's a lack of knowledge targeted at a race. We are so much better than where we were 60 years ago. And there's still remnants of where that's not the case, but for the majority of the aspect, it is the case. And we can sit here and we can really get past this if we take the necessary steps. But that takes everybody's involvement. We should not be telling our children that they can't play with that little black boy or that little white girl. Those are things that continue to drive that necessary thing of hate. Because again, children are not born that way. They come in almost the same way, C-section or vaginally. And they're the same. They're beautiful, pure newborns. It's us that can impose those thoughts, those beliefs, those ideals and mannerisms that can shape our children. So we have to be more aware of that, and we have to teach them to see past color and see the person. And that's something that we have the ability to do. And I know this to be a fact. We just have to choose to do it. So in terms of that being said, let's talk about a topic. And let's get brutally honest. They're remaking The Little Mermaid. And they found their star for Ariel. She's a young black woman. And there was a group that was created called Make Ariel White Again. And this is some of the pictures that has been depicted. That's a watermelon. That is a woman with a beard and made to be quite grotesque with enhanced lips and teeth. This is quite demeaning. This is very troubling that someone would go to that length to create that type of group, and then you have all these people join it. Now listen, it's not supposed to be a race thing. It's 2019. We are better than this. We are so much better than this. If you don't want to watch the movie, don't watch the movie, or go watch the original. It's still out there on Amazon, and it's very affordable, I assure you. This is not something that we should be doing. We continue to perpetuate racism by doing stupid stuff like this. That's what she actually looks like. She's a beautiful young lady, a very talented singer. And again, it's a black family. I know I watched The Little Mermaid as a child. My wife watched it. My children have already watched it. The color wasn't the determining factor of the movie. They're children. We have to stop planting these seeds of racism. We have to stop it. That is up to us to do. Those are things that we can control. The children do not have to continue in the cycle of racism. We can end it. We simply have to take the proper steps of doing so. So have those conversations. And that's ultimately what I want this show to be about, is to help close that gap on racial tensions. Because whether she was white or whether she was black or whatever color, she's going to enhance and enrich and motivate and inspire children. And that is the purpose of the movie, to combat hate. So why are we introducing it 20 years later on a film that they decided to remake, that they own the rights to? It just, again, something that we need to be aware of. In terms of another topic, see if I have it in order. Within the last 24 hours, we've had several shootings, downtown St. Louis and in North County. 10 shootings to be exact, and of those 10, 5 are actually dead, and 1 is critically injured, and the rest are non-fatal. So we have a problem with guns, guys, and we have to figure it out. We have to find some type of legislation to where we can reel this in and get this under control, because children are dying. These 5 of the kids that died were teens. A single mother walked back into her home and found these bodies, one of which being her child, 2 of them being her nephews, and that's just simply unfortunate, and there's no reason for this to be happening. There's no good enough reason to take somebody else's life. And there's also no reason that we shouldn't be taking steps to counteract this and minimize it and stop it from happening and being more proactive. We have to do better. I'm sincerely asking that everybody try to talk through whatever situation there might be and find another means of handling it other than resulting to violence, because these innocent children are losing their lives, and then parents are having to grieve and bury their children, and that's just a situation that we should not have to be experiencing or even talking about. So we have to come together and come up with a solution that prevents this and reduces it significantly, because 10 people being shot within a 24-hour time period is scary, and our city is better than this. Honestly, I can't fathom being one of those parents. So they haven't released the names, but my heart goes out to those families if they happen to come across this video, and you have my heartfelt prayers going towards you, because I'm sorry, it shouldn't have to happen. Let's see here, and this is the other shooting, and this one was at 1:30 this morning. 1 man and 4 men were shot, and they're still trying to figure out who did it. There was one other story that I wanted to discuss. Nope, go back. There it is. I got a little out of order, but that's okay. We're going to fix it on the fly. Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner has done something very inspiring and very much worth talking about. And that was he created a foundation for a Habitat for Humanity. And so his foundation actually gifted a Somali immigrant and survivors of domestic abuse a fully furnished home right here in St. Louis. And it was given to her on the 4th of July. Somali immigrant house by a person of a different color. That is exactly what we should be doing. And I'm not saying you should buy them a house. You don't have to go to that extent, but there are other little things that we can do to help, like just be friendly, not, talk down towards them or encourage your children talk down to them. You can be welcoming if they're in your neighborhood, be friendly, allow them to play with other children. We can do better as an actual community. It's amazing because as a child, I know that if I rode my bike in the street, I would get in trouble. And the whole neighborhood knew me and knew my bike. And so if I crossed the street or if I was riding my bike in the street, the neighbors would tell my mother or my father. And then I got in trouble when I got back. And so then I realized, I got eyes everywhere. It takes a village. And this is how we show what type of people we are. We do things like this. Again, not necessarily having to buy them a fully furnished home, but taking the steps to help somebody else less fortunate than yourselves. These are things that we can do. And there's not necessarily a price tag. You could buy somebody a gallon of milk if you see that they have food stamps. Here, let me spend $20 and help you out. You can do things like that. And so I just want to encourage you to help somebody else that you might see. And it'll really change the dynamic, because then you never know how it might domino effect. When they get to a position, they'll do the same. And so then it creates a better environment for everybody. Now, in terms of, where's my other piece? Yeah, in terms of the show, one of the other things that I would love to do would be to have knowledge of events that are taking place in the St. Louis area and be able to promote those for you on this show. And so that way we can have more communal events to attend and be aware of. So if you're an artist or a musician or you do stand-up comedy, whatever it is, if you're doing it locally in the St. Louis area and you'd like to have that highlighted, I would love to have that on my show, so that way we can continue to close that gap again and have diversity and interact and mingle with each other. And I would definitely show up, schedule permitting. And so again, I'm just going to speak on the goal for this particular month. There will be a few more episodes that come out this month. But if you could please help me out and share this with someone, if this touched you or inspired you in any way, or you felt like you could relate and you would want to be a part of this, I would greatly appreciate it, because my goal is to get to 60 people by the end of this month. And then from that standpoint, I'll want to have a conversation, which we can do via social media, because I don't expect 60 people schedules to line up, but we can have a conversation about some things that we want to see changed in the city. And then I'm actually getting ready to reach out to the mayor of St. Louis, as well as the police chief, and try to schedule sit downs with them to talk about things that they think we can be doing in the community to better help, because it's a two-way street. You have to give to get, and I really want to see that dynamic take place. So that's why this whole situation and show has formulated. Now I'll go to the back. There we go. One more. Awesome. And that's what Black and White's about. And again, I tell you my name, but the stories that I'm talking about, it doesn't compare. It's not about me. This is about doing what's humane and what's right. It's not a political show. It's just a show where I can bring topics to our awareness, and then we can start game planning on how to take action to solve and prevent these things from occurring. Another topic that I had brought up in the first episode was how to make our schools safer, and things that we can do to help our children feel safe and help us feel safe with our children being in school. Because every time you get that phone call, your heart starts racing, because you don't know why they're calling, and we want to just be able to know that it's just because they don't feel well. So if you have ideas or suggestions in that capacity, please share that with me and send me a message, and we'll happily discuss it. And then I can take that to the mayor or the police chief whenever I get that opportunity to sit down with them. But thank you for watching. Share this with somebody else. Help me reach this goal of 60, and we'll be on our way to making this a much, much better place. Until next time.